They were the billionaire twins who rejected every meal cooked by all the maids in the mansion. Dish after dish, nothing satisfied them, until a poor maid with a haunted past stepped into their lives. What happened next will leave you speechless. Before we continue, kindly like, subscribe and share. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Now let's go back. The morning started with the fire alarm blaring. Daniel Nosu, billionaire CEO of Nosu Constructions, was standing in his boxers and a badly buttoned shirt, waving a burnt towel in the air like a white flag. The toaster was smoking like it was about to explode. Eggs were bubbling angrily on the gas, and the kettle screamed like a banshee. His once pristine kitchen now looked like a war zone, and Daniel was clearly losing the battle. He shouted over the chaos, "Guys, breakfast is almost ready." No reply. Then came the thunder. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Down the grand hallway marched two pint-sized hurricanes, Ava and Aiden Nosu, the billionaire twins, age 7, occupation professional tyrants. "I said we wear pink today," Ava snapped, adjusting her pink skirt and placing her sunglasses on like she was attending a red carpet event. "I'm not a girl." "We're wearing blue," Aiden barked, holding his t-shirt up like a revolutionary flag. "We wore blue yesterday," Ava snarled, hands on her hips. "And we'll wear it again today," Aiden declared, his chest puffed out like a tiny lion. Daniel groaned from the kitchen, "Stop arguing and sit down. And Aiden, stop chewing the charger cable. It's not spaghetti." The twins stomped over to the dining table like disappointed royalty. Daniel dropped 2 plates in front of them. Toast, eggs, juice, and what he hoped was love. Ava took 1 bite and grimaced like she was chewing cardboard. "Daddy, this is worse than prison food." "Too salty," Aiden gagged. "My tongue is crying." Daniel sank into a chair like he had fought a lion and lost. "Really? Let me see." He tasted the eggs and immediately made a face. "Okay, yeah, that's a little aggressive. But you two drove away all your nannies." He pointed at them like a frustrated prosecutor. "I'm trying my best here." Aiden leaned forward, napkin tucked like a judge. "Daddy, the nannies don't understand that we're special." "Special how?" "You said it, Daddy," Ava said sweetly. "You say it every day." Daniel buried his face in his hands. "I need a new maid. A good one. Someone grounded." Upstairs, Linda, his loyal secretary, was already dialing her best friend's number. Meanwhile, across town, in a house that smelled of boiled yam and broken dreams, Valerie lay on a faded mattress in a worn wrapper, eyes glued to the ceiling. A single tear slid down her cheek, not from sadness but exhaustion. She was once a government project manager, commanding boardrooms. Now, she boiled water for the woman who called her barren and useless every single day. Her phone rang. "Linda, you still looking for work?" Linda asked gently. Valerie sat up quickly, wrapper falling to her knees. "Yes, please, anything. My boss needs a maid. The pay is huge, but the twins are wild." Valerie chuckled dryly. "After what I've seen, nothing can scare me." And then a roar shook the walls. "Valerie, come and boil water. All you do is eat my son's money." Valerie sighed and whispered, "I'll take it." Valerie woke up before the sun. Her eyes were open, but her spirit still felt buried under the weight of the last few years. She didn't rise like someone starting a new chapter. She rose like someone crawling out of a grave. She folded her wrapper tightly around her waist and stepped into the hallway, where Mama Martins, her mother-in-law, was already awake. arms folded, lips curled into their usual frown. "You're going to work today, Abby?" she asked, without looking up from the Bible she held purely for decoration. "Yes, Ma," Mama Martins scoffed. "Go and look after another man's children, since your own womb is just empty decoration." Valerie didn't reply. Not because she didn't have a response, oh, she had plenty, but because some battles weren't worth fighting anymore. Her silence had become her shield. She moved to the kitchen to boil water, prepare breakfast for the woman who reminded her daily that she was worthless, and pack her things for her first day as a maid in a billionaire's mansion, a mansion that had chewed and spat out 15 nannies in 3 years. As she stood in front of the boiling pot, her mind drifted. How did I get here? She remembered her wedding day, the white gown, the way Martins had looked at her like she was the key to his whole future. He promised to protect her, to build a family, to fight for their dreams. And then, like a badly edited movie, he changed. First, it was the subtle criticisms. "You're not dressing the way you used to." Then came the isolation. "Resign, let's build our home together." Then Mama Martins moved in, and everything fell apart. She gave up her career, her savings, her body, and received nothing. In return but insults and accusations, unfruitful vine, dry soil, barren lizard, witch. Her friends had stopped calling. Her confidence vanished like smoke. Even her reflection sometimes startled her. But today, something was different. There was a flicker of hope in her chest, and it terrified her. Hope was dangerous. Hope had betrayed her before. Still she got dressed carefully. White blouse, modest skirt, a scarf over her braids. Clean but simple. Nothing flashy, nothing that could be misunderstood. When she stepped out of the house with her vial in hand, Mama Martins called out behind her, "Don't disgrace me there, oh! Let them not sack you before night." Valerie didn't answer. She just walked. Each step toward the bus felt like a rebellion. At the Nosu Constructions head office, the receptionist looked up as Valerie entered and blinked in mild surprise. The woman before her didn't look like your average nanny. There was something refined under her simplicity, a calm storm, quiet power. Daniel's secretary, Linda, came down herself to escort Valerie upstairs. "You look good, babe," Linda whispered, with a smile. "Just be honest, confident, and don't let Daniel's grumpiness scare you." Valerie nodded, gripping her file tightly. Daniel Nozu's office was a kingdom of glass and chrome, expensive, cold, intimidating. He barely looked up when she entered. "Sit," he said flatly, still typing. She did. "So," he began, voice clipped, "you're good with children?" "Yes, sir." "Any certificates? Training? Degree?" "No, sir, but I have real experience. I raised 5 younger siblings. I'm a Sunday school teacher for children. 20 years of discipline, patience, and negotiation." That made Daniel pause. He looked up at her for the first time. Something flickered in his eyes. He closed the laptop slowly. "My secretary speaks highly of you. Your salary is N500,000 monthly. I'll send the contract. You'll resume on Monday." Valerie blinked. Her lips parted. "Thank you, sir," she said, rising quickly. "Good luck surviving my twins," he added, half smiling. "They eat nannies for breakfast." Valerie chuckled softly. "Then maybe it's time someone taught them to cook." As she walked out, her heart beat with something strange, not fear, not sadness, something close to possibility. That night she returned home and told Martins the news. He didn't even turn away from the TV. "So you're now a glorified maid," he muttered. "You can raise other people's kids, but not your own." It hit her like a slap, but she didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply walked away, ironed her clothes for Monday 3 times, and packed her bag like a soldier going to war. Because deep down, she knew this wasn't just a job. It was her last chance to breathe. Monday morning came with an anxious sun. Valerie stood outside the Nosu mansion, clutching her small black handbag like a shield. The gates were taller than any ambition she once had. The intercom alone looked like it could interview her before. "Granting access," she whispered a prayer. "Dear God, let me not faint or fight today." The security man led her in. As the doors opened, cool air swept across her face. The smell of imported leather, lemon air freshener, and wealth hit her nose instantly. The living room was wide enough to host a wedding reception. A giant chandelier hung like a crystal god above the space. Artworks, she couldn't even pronounce their names, stared down at her from the walls. Everything sparkled, except the mood. In the middle of all this glamour sat the twins, Ava and Aiden. One in a pink silk robe, the other in Spider-Man boxers and an oversized hoodie, both seated on a massive sofa, iPads in hand. They didn't even blink as she walked in. Valerie smiled brightly. "Good morning, sweethearts." No answer, not even a head turn. "Okay." First challenge, she approached again. "Hi. I'm Miss Valerie, your new maid. I hope we can be friends." Still no reaction. Ava raised a hand like a queen dismissing a servant. "We're busy." Valerie paused, smiled again. "No problem. I'll start with breakfast." She entered the kitchen and nearly cried. Madame Peace, the last maid, had left. The place, like she was running from a bomb. Half-washed plates, spoilt tomatoes, crumbs everywhere. The blender looked like it had survived a war. She rolled up her sleeves, washed, scrubbed, chopped. In an hour, she prepared a breakfast of fried plantain, egg sauce, and freshly squeezed orange juice. Everything was warm and seasoned with patience. She set the table and returned to the twins. "Breakfast is ready," she announced with a cheerful tone. "We're not hungry," Aiden replied flatly. "I already ate imaginary noodles," Ava added without blinking. Valerie blinked. "But we only eat if it smells like how Miss Peace used to make it," Aiden declared. "Miss Peace didn't even cook," Valerie nearly shouted, but swallowed her words. "Okay," she said, adjusting her scarf. "Would you at least sit at the table?" "We eat on the couch," Ava said, picking a grape from nowhere. Valerie took a deep breath. "All right, but food tastes better when we eat together. Let's try something new today." They didn't move. Valerie turned around and walked away. Upstairs, behind the staircase, Daniel was watching. He stood quietly with a mug of tea, shaking his head. "Will this one last a week?" he muttered and walked away. The rest of the day was intense. Aiden hid one shoe in the fridge and forgot where he kept the other. Ava smeared peanut butter on the wall to draw her mood board. They both threw their backpacks in opposite directions and demanded she find their homework in 5 minutes. She begged, pleaded, sang songs, told jokes. Nothing worked. By 3 p.m., she had a headache that felt spiritual. At 4 p.m., she sat on the staircase and whispered to herself, "They're just children, not demons. You can do this." At 5 p.m., Aiden poured milk on the floor to feed his imaginary goat. By 6 p.m., Valerie was sweating through her bra. She finally managed to bathe them, after convincing Aiden that water would not dissolve his superhero powers, and settled them in front of a cartoon. That evening, Daniel returned. He looked at the kids curled up quietly, then at Valerie's exhausted posture. He raised an eyebrow. "Day 1 and you haven't quit yet. Impressive." Valerie gave him a tired smile. "If I survive day 2, give me a medal." Daniel laughed quietly. "They're testing you. All the nannies leave before they even unpack. They'll try to break you." Valerie looked up, eyes calm but firm. "Then they'll soon learn. Broken doesn't mean weak." Daniel paused, caught off guard. There was something in her eyes. Fire, maybe, or pain, or both. He simply nodded. "Good night, Valerie." She returned the nod. "Good night, sir." But as she lay in her tiny staff room that night staring at the ceiling, she whispered, "God, please, give me strength, because if these twins beat me, I might just go back to that house and strangle somebody." Then she laughed quietly to herself. A tired, genuine warrior's laugh. By day 4, Valerie had studied her opponents. She had observed their patterns, listened to their tantrums, taken mental notes like a PhD researcher on childhood madness. Ava liked control. Aiden loved drama. Both craved attention like oxygen, and disliked rules like vegetables. So Valerie devised a plan, a heist, a psychological, dramatic, perfectly orchestrated operation designed not to punish, but to earn power. That morning, after the twins left for school, Valerie went to work. She entered their room with the stealth of a cat burglar. Every toy, every iPad, every doll, every game console, they all disappeared, packed neatly into a bedsheet, zipped tight and shoved under their bed where no curious child would think to look. She cleaned their room, folded their clothes, and waited. PM. Sharp. The school bus dropped them off. Valerie opened the door with a smile. "Welcome, my darlings." Ava walked in first, immediately suspicious. "Why is the living room so clean?" Aiden sniffed the air like a rat in a lab. "Something smells suspicious." They dropped their school bags and sprinted upstairs. 2 minutes later, the scream came. "My stuffed bunny is missing. My race car. Gone!" Valerie remained on the couch, calmly sipping juice like a woman watching an episode of her favorite soap opera. They came crashing back down, eyes wide with panic. "Miss!" Ava cried. "We've been robbed! All our toys are missing!" Aiden added, holding his chest like he was about to faint. Valerie gasped. "What? Oh no! Where did you last see them?" "Our room!" they cried in unison. Valerie tapped her chin. Could it be that someone snuck in while I was napping and stole your toys?" "Let's call the police," Aiden yelled. "Yes, right now," Ava agreed. Valerie pulled out her phone. "Okay, let me report it." She texted Linda to play along, then made the fakest, most dramatic phone call of her life. "Yes, officer. It's an emergency. The twins' toys, their iPads all gone." "Yes, next week. But, officer, we need help now." She ended the call and turned to them. "The police said they're fully booked with emergencies. They'll come next week." "Next week?" Ava gasped. "That's child abuse." "I can't sleep without Bunny," Aiden wailed. Valerie folded her arms, leaned forward, and said calmly, "There's another way." They paused. "I'll help you find them, but under one condition." Their eyes narrowed. "What condition?" "You must promise to cooperate with me from now on. That means no more throwing food, no more pouring juice on the floor, no hiding. Shoes in the fridge. You'll eat, bathe, brush, and do your schoolwork without drama. Do we have a deal?" Aiden looked at Ava. Ava sighed dramatically, then nodded. "Fine. Deal," Aiden added. Valerie smiled. "Excellent. Let's begin the search. They turned the mansion upside down, under the sofas, behind curtains, inside cabinets, in the washing machine. Ava checked the microwave. Aidan searched the doghouse even though they didn't own a dog. After almost an hour of chaos, Valerie accidentally peeked under the bed. Oh my goodness! What is this? The twins rushed in. My toys! My iPad! My bunny! They squealed with joy, hugging the very items they'd ignored just days ago. I think the thief must have dropped them here in fear, Valerie said with a knowing smile. Thank you, miss, Ava said, clutching her bunny like a newborn. You're a hero, Aidan added. Valerie stood tall. No, I'm your maid, but if you treat me like a human being, I just might be the best thing that ever happened to you. They both stared at her, wide-eyed, like they'd just discovered fire. From that moment, the atmosphere changed. That night, Valerie cooked jollof rice with peppered chicken and diced fried plantain. The twins devoured it like they were raised. In a boarding school. You're the best cook in the whole world, Aidan said between mouthfuls. Better than Daddy, Ava added, licking her fingers. Daniel, who had just returned from work, stood silently at the door, watching them. He was stunned. For the first time in months, his kids were eating. Happily, laughing, obeying, sitting properly, and most shockingly, complimenting someone. He walked into the kitchen and whispered, "What did you do to them?" Valerie wiped her hands on a towel and replied, "I spoke their language." Daniel stared at her, a strange look on his face. "Miss Valerie, you're a miracle." Valerie smiled. "No, sir, I'm just desperate not to be broken twice." The Nosu mansion had never smelled so delicious. From the rich aroma of egusi soup bubbling on the stove to the sweet scent of plantain crisping in hot oil, Valerie had transformed the kitchen into a sanctuary. Even the security guards peeked through the back door, sniffing the air like hungry wolves. Upstairs, Ava and Aidan were making a chart to vote on the best meals of the week. "So far, Jollof is winning," Ava said, chewing on a pencil. No, the egusi with pounded yam is unbeatable," Aidan argued, raising his hand like it was a parliament debate. "I'll ask Miss Valerie to make both tomorrow," Ava declared like a queen issuing orders. Valerie watched them from the dining area and smiled to herself. Just weeks ago they treated her like a footmat. Now they greeted her with hugs and fought over who loved her more. But as sweet as her new reality was, someone was watching. Daniel. From the top of the stairs. Every day since the toy heist, he had observed his children change under Valerie's care. They bathed without argument, brushed without being begged, and ate everything without spitting dramatic insults. It was like living with different people, but it wasn't just the kids that had changed. Daniel had too. He began coming home earlier. He lingered longer in the kitchen, pretending to check emails while inhaling the scent of stew. He found himself watching Valerie as she moved around the house with silent efficiency, tying her scarf tightly, humming hymns under her breath, her footsteps like whispers, steady, deliberate, and strangely comforting. He had hired her as a maid, but what he was beginning to feel was not part of the contract. One Saturday afternoon, Valerie stood in the garden, teaching Ava how to braid her doll's hair. Aidan was nearby building a spaceship out of plastic bottles. Daniel walked outside, phone in hand, pretending to be on a call. "Miss Valerie," he said, slipping the phone into his pocket. "Do you have a moment?" "Of course, sir," she replied, rising and dusting her hands. I was thinking, the twins' birthday's coming up. I'd like to throw something small, low-key, but fun. I was wondering if you'd help plan it. Valerie blinked, surprised. Me? But I'm just the maid. Daniel shook his head slowly. No. You're the reason they even smile these days. I want it to be special, and you're the only one who knows what they actually like. She nodded, a little flustered. Of course, sir. I'll do my best. He smiled. I don't doubt that. As he walked away, Ava looked up from her doll. Miss, are you blushing? Valerie nearly choked. No, I'm just... The sun is hot. Aidan squinted at her. That looked like blush. I've seen it on TV. Valerie turned away, cheeks warming. She couldn't be catching feelings. Not here. Not now. Not again. But that night her past came knocking, literally. At exactly 8:37 p.m., the doorbell rang. The twins were asleep, Daniel was in his study, and Valerie was cleaning up. She opened the door and froze. Standing before her, in a cheap T-shirt and fake leather slippers, was Martins, her husband, looking tired, scruffy and audacious. She opened the security gate halfway, her heart thumping. "What do you want?" she asked coldly. Martins looked around, clearly impressed. By the luxury. So this is where you're hiding, eh? Living soft while I'm suffering? I'm working, she said sharply. That's what people do when they're not leeching off others. He scoffed. Is this the life you chose? Housemaid to a rich man? Carrying another man's children on your back? You left your husband and allowed the devil to enter your head. Valerie gripped the door. I left because your mother threw me out and you let her. You replaced me with a stranger and stood there chewing suya like nothing happened. Martin's face darkened. You'll regret this, Valerie. No man will ever marry you. You're cursed. That's why you're barren. Before she could respond, Daniel appeared behind her. Is there a problem? His voice was calm, dangerous. Martins turned to him, instantly aware of the power dynamic. No wahala. Sir, I just came to see my wife. Daniel stepped forward. This is my house. You don't come here uninvited, especially not to harass my staff. She's my wife, Martins hissed. Daniel folded his arms. She doesn't live with you, and by the look on her face, she doesn't want to. Martins took a step back. Swallowing his pride, Daniel added, voice colder now, if you show up here again, I'll have security escort you off my property, permanently. Martins looked at Valerie, then back at Daniel, and walked away without another word. When the door closed, Valerie turned away, tears burning behind her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. Daniel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You have nothing to apologize for, not to me, not to anyone. She nodded, unable to speak, because deep down, she wasn't just scared of Martin's returning. She was scared of what she was beginning to feel for the man who had just defended her like she mattered. Sunday afternoon. The weather was too calm, too quiet, the kind of silence that carries warning signs. Valerie stood in front of the gate to her former home, if you could still call it that. She had come back for one reason only, to pick up her documents, some clothes, and her old laptop. Just a quick visit. Linda had warned her, don't go alone, let me follow you. But Valerie refused. She wasn't going for war. Just closure. She pushed open the gate slowly. The compound was unusually quiet. until she stepped into the living room and froze. There she was, sitting on her couch, wearing blood-red lace and flipping through a gossip magazine like the Queen of Disgrace herself, the woman, Martin's new bride. She didn't look up, didn't smile, didn't flinch. She sat there like she'd bought shares in the house. Before Valerie, who could even speak, Mama Martin strutted in from the hallway, wrapper tied like a general preparing for combat. You're back. Come and greet your sister. I just brought her from the village. Valerie blinked. My who? Your co-wife. Valerie's. Ears rang, her head spun. I told you before, Abby, I will not let my son's destiny die in your barren hands. This one is fresh. Her womb is vibrating with anointing. Just then, Martins walked in, holding a nylon bag of suya like he was returning from paradise. He saw Valerie. Didn't flinch. Didn't stop chewing. You heard, Mama. Either bear it or leave. It hit her like a cement block. He had really done it. He had brought another woman, publicly, shamelessly, into the house she gave everything up to build. Valerie didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just turned and walked slowly into her former bedroom, now half emptied and filled with the scent of the new woman's perfume. She gathered her few remaining clothes, her certificate, her laptop, a few personal items, all while listening to Mama Martins praise the new bride for the way she blinked with grace. She stayed that night. Yes, she stayed. Slept in the same house with her replacement. Walked past her in the kitchen. Brushed her teeth while the new woman giggled in the hallway. She even served Mama Martins her morning tea like a glorified servant. For months she endured, not because she was weak, but because she had nowhere else to go yet. And because deep down, some broken part of her still believed Martins would come to his senses. But if hope was dangerous, regret was fatal. Then came the final straw. One hot Thursday afternoon, Valerie returned from the market with vegetables in one hand and groundnut oil in the other. As she reached the gate, she saw her bags lined up like abandoned luggage. She froze, knocked once, twice. Finally the door creaked open. Mama Martin stood there with a twisted grin. Ah, you're back. Good, my pastor came yesterday for deliverance and confirmed what I've always suspected. Valerie's heart sank. You are a witch. That's why this new girl hasn't conceived yet. Your spirit is blocking her womb. Valerie stood frozen. The sky was still blue, the sun was still shining, but her world went completely dark. Mama, Martin spat her final sentence like a curse. Pack your things and go, before your spirit poisons another child. And just like that, the door closed. Valerie stood at the gate for 10 whole minutes. No tears, no begging, no anger, just silence. Then slowly she bent down, picked up her bags, and walked away. She didn't know where she was going, but her feet remembered the path to the only safe place left, Linda's house. When her best friend opened the door and saw her, dusty, sweaty, broken, Linda didn't say a word. She just pulled her inside and held her tight. Sit down, she whispered. Do you want tea or tears first? Valerie dropped her bag and collapsed into her friend's arms. I gave them everything, she said quietly. My name, my womb, my peace, and now I'm the witch they blame for their foolishness. Linda kissed her forehead. They will beg, just wait. God is still alive.